I had been working with somebody whose family was from right up the street here in Rockport, and she and I developed a script together. And
I had been working with somebody whose family was from right up the street here in Rockport, and she and I developed a script together, and we'd always lived in LA for many years. After playing Commander Riker in Star Trek, Jonathan Frakes' career took a shocking turn. When his movie Thunderbirds flopped in 2004, Hollywood blacklisted him overnight. Studios stopped calling. He had to sell possessions. His wife opened a store to help keep things going. He called it movie jail and disappeared from the big screen for nearly 2 decades. But the truth about what happened next reveals a comeback story Hollywood tried to bury. Jonathan Frakes was born on August 19, 1952, in a small hospital in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania. His parents lived in State College, but Bellefonte was where all the babies were born. Jonathan once joked that even Penn State professors came to visit him there, not just to see the baby but because Bellefonte had liquor stores and State College didn't. His father James was a respected English professor, and his mother Doris was a dedicated teacher. When Jonathan was 5, the family moved to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, after his father got a job at Lehigh University. That's where Jonathan and his younger brother Daniel grew up. Sadly, Daniel would later pass away from pancreatic cancer in 1997. In 4th grade, Jonathan was given a trombone. He didn't choose it. His long arms did. But that random choice opened up a lifelong love of music. His father introduced him to jazz, and Jonathan took to it fast. He joined the Liberty High School Grenadier Band, which was a big deal in Bethlehem. In 1970, they went to Florida for the Festival of States and won top prizes in both the field and parade competitions. The mayor even renamed a city street in their honor. Jonathan loved that moment. He said the band was better than the football team, and people came just to watch their halftime shows. After high school, he started college at Penn State as a psychology major. That didn't last long. One summer, while working as an usher at a theater festival, a director asked him to join a play. Jonathan saw how much fun the actors were having and immediately changed his major to theater arts. He later joked that a degree in theater might not be the most practical, but it changed his life. At Penn State, he joined the Thespians, did non-stop shows, and barely slept, but he loved it. After earning his BFA in 1974, Jonathan went to Harvard for more training. He got into the Loeb Drama Center's professional acting program and spent summers working with real theater companies. He said it was the kind of place where students could be hired to fill out the cast. It was serious work, and he learned a lot from the older actors and directors around him. That mix of discipline and hands-on experience gave him the tools he'd need to go pro. Jonathan Frakes finished his degree in theater arts from Penn State in 1974. He packed up and moved to New York City, chasing a dream like thousands of other hopeful actors. But New York didn't make it easy. He waited tables, moved furniture, and once hurt his back doing it. He performed small roles with the Impossible Ragtime Theater and even played a part in Eugene O'Neill's The Hairy Ape. In 1976, he finally made it to Broadway in the musical Shenandoah. But one of the strangest jobs he took was dressing up as Captain America for Marvel Comics, doing appearances at conventions. It wasn't glamorous, but it helped him learn how to deal with fans, something that would come in handy years later. In 1977, he got his first real break. He landed a role on the NBC soap opera The Doctors, playing a Vietnam veteran named Tom Carroll. It gave him a steady paycheck for a while, but the role didn't last. When his character was written out, his agent told him to try Los Angeles. So in 1978, he packed up again and moved west. That's where things slowly started to change. He didn't become a star overnight, but LA brought more TV opportunities. He guest starred on big shows like Charlie's Angels, Fantasy Island, The Waltons, Quincy, M.E., and The Dukes of Hazzard. These weren't leading roles, but they helped him build a name. He was showing up, learning the ropes, and proving himself one audition at a time. In 1979, he landed a role in a TV movie called Beach Patrol. It was supposed to be a pilot for a new show, but it didn't go anywhere. Just another dead end. He acted alongside Robin Strand and Christy Dill, and the film was produced by big names like Aaron Spelling, but even big producers couldn't save it. Like many actors in Hollywood, Frakes was stuck in the cycle of pilots that never got picked up. He kept working, but the big break still felt far away. Then in 1983, he thought he finally found it. NBC cast him in a primetime soap called Bare Essence, based on a miniseries that had done well. It was a huge chance, but the audience didn't care, and the show was canceled soon after it started. Another setback, but this time something good came out of it. It was on that set he met Jeannie Francis. At first, they didn't hit it off. He even joked about her hair, but fate wasn't done with them yet. 2 years later, in 1985, they met again on the set of North and South, a massive Civil War miniseries. They filmed for 6 months across the southern United States, and this time something clicked. Their relationship started, and so did the next big chapter of Frakes' career. North and South was a hit, and Frakes stood out as Stanley Hazard. People were finally starting to notice him. Then came 1987. Frakes, encouraged by Jeannie and her family, auditioned for a brand new sci-fi show. It took 6 weeks and 7 auditions, but he finally got the part. He was cast as Commander William Riker on Star Trek: The Next Generation. This was the moment everything changed. Years of struggling, cancelled shows, and forgotten pilots had led to this. And even though he and Jeannie had gotten engaged, they had to delay the wedding twice because of the shooting schedule. But they made it happen. On May 28, 1988, during the show's first break, they got married. But in 1987, Jonathan Frakes wasn't the obvious choice to play Commander William Riker. He had to fight for it. The role could have gone to Billy Campbell or Michael Ogrand or even Jeffrey Combs. The studio was leaning towards someone else, but Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, stepped in. He saw something in Frakes. Maybe something of himself. He didn't just back him quietly, he made calls, he pushed hard, and Frakes got the part. Years later, Frakes admitted Roddenberry saw a little of himself in Riker, maybe more than a little. Once on the show, Frakes accidentally created something that became a legend, the Riker maneuver. It wasn't meant to be a cool move. The chairs on set were low and awkward, so instead of sitting normally, he just swung his leg over the back. It looked bold, maybe too bold. Frakes later joked it might have seemed like an accidental move, but fans loved it. It became a thing. Even Jack Quaid copied it in Lower Decks with a shout of Riker, as he mounted a saddle. There's also another Riker maneuver from Insurrection, though that one had more to do with battle tactics. When the Best of Both Worlds aired, something clicked that fans didn't expect. Jonathan Frakes as Riker wasn't just the calm second-in-command anymore. He was face-to-face with someone just as sharp, Commander Shelby, played by Elizabeth Dennehy. Their scenes together had this quiet tension. Riker rolled his eyes. Shelby pushed harder. Fans loved it. Years later, when the episodes were shown in theaters, people still remembered. One person even yelled out "Read it, girl," when Shelby challenged Riker in the elevator. That line wasn't just funny, it showed how strong their chemistry was. The audience could feel it. People started imagining a version of the show where Riker was the captain and Shelby was his number one. It made you wonder what could have been. It wasn't just a plot twist. It showed a different side of Riker, a man unsure if he was ready for the big chair. But not everything about Star Trek was serious. Jonathan Frakes once shared something surprising. He said that Gene Roddenberry told him not to smile. It was absurd, Frakes said. He laughed about it later. They cast me and then told me not to smile. The truth was, the set was full of jokes. The cast was loud, playful, and always laughing. Frakes, Patrick Stewart, and Brent Spiner wanted to bring that energy on screen too. They admired the old trio, Bones, Spock, and Kirk, and wanted that same spark. They didn't just deliver lines, they teased each other. They rolled their eyes. They had fun. And you could feel that bond in every episode. It wasn't just acting. It was real friendship bleeding into their characters. When Jonathan Frakes first asked to direct an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, he could tell the producers didn't take him seriously. Rick Berman, the show's executive producer, didn't say no, but Frakes could see it in his face. That look of doubt stayed with him. So instead of pushing again with words, Frakes went quiet and started working. He spent months preparing. He sat in editing rooms for nearly 300 hours, joined casting sessions, and attended every pre-production meeting he could get into. Then he showed up with a 47-page presentation. It had everything: storyboards he drew by hand, detailed camera setups, character breakdowns. That document earned a nickname, the Riker Directive. And when Berman finally looked at it, something changed. Frakes hadn't just asked for a shot. He built his own opportunity from scratch. The first episode he directed was The Offspring, an emotional story about Data building an android daughter. It wasn't easy. Frakes was still playing Commander Riker, so he had to juggle acting and directing at the same time. He wore his Starfleet uniform under a director's jacket, running from behind the camera to in front of it. Scene after scene, he worked 18-hour days. He barely slept, but it paid off. The episode aired in March 1990 and became one of the most praised in the entire series. Even then, Frakes wasn't satisfied with his own acting in the episode. He actually asked the editors to cut his scenes shorter. That's how focused he was on the directing side. But not everyone trusted him right away. Some of his fellow cast members weren't sure how to react to one of their own calling the shots. Patrick Stewart was polite in public, but behind the scenes he wasn't sure an actor could direct other actors. Marina Sirtis didn't even look him in the eye that first morning. They had a romantic subplot in the episode, and she was nervous it would make things awkward. Brent Spiner, who played Data, came prepared with extra notes to protect his character. But Frakes handled it all. He didn't pull rank. He focused on performance. He watched closely. By the end of the second day, Stewart had changed his mind. Sirtis was laughing with him again. Spiner put his notes away. The entire cast started to realize Frakes had done something they hadn't. He had trained for this. What they didn't see was what he called his stealth directing. Whenever he had scenes as Riker, he would arrive at the set 90 minutes early to prepare every angle. He already had shot lists ready. He had gone over everything with the cinematographer in advance. During lunch, while the rest of the crew took breaks, he locked himself in the editing bay to review footage. No one asked him to do that. He just did it. That's how he kept things running smoothly without making it look like he was showing off. And when it came to camera work, Frakes had a secret weapon. After shoots wrapped, he would head to a small bar called the Warp Core with Marvin Rush, the show's director of photography. They'd sit for hours sipping Macallan 18, and Rush would teach him cinematography using bar napkins. Light placement, angles, composition, it all happened between drinks and scribbles. Frakes kept dozens of those napkins. 13 are still framed in his office. By the time Paramount needed someone to direct Star Trek: First Contact, he wasn't their first choice. Big names like Ridley Scott and John McTiernan had already said no. But Frakes knew Star Trek better than anyone. He understood the tone, the characters, the world. So Paramount gave him the job. Frakes had 10 weeks to prepare, then 12 weeks to shoot. This was a huge change from television, where he was used to just 7 days for each phase to get ready. He studied classics like Jaws, Close Encounters, and 2001, A Space Odyssey. He even looked at James Cameron's and Ridley Scott's work. He knew the pressure was on. This wasn't just TV anymore. One major shift came with the creation of the Borg Queen. At first, the writers wanted the Borg to stay a mindless collective, but Paramount's boss Jonathan Dolgen said the film needed a real villain, someone physical, someone the characters could talk to. That's when the idea of the Borg Queen was born. Casting her was tricky. They needed someone dangerous but seductive, creepy but fascinating. Frakes found that in Alice Kreitch. She fit the role perfectly. Her makeup took hours, pale skin, wires for hair, and an eerie elongated head. Her entrance scene, where her upper body is lowered and attached to her spine, became the film's most memorable visual. It took ILM 5 months to finish that shot. Everything in First Contact was bigger than TV. Borg makeup that used to take 1 hour now took 5. Getting into costume added another 30 minutes. Taking it off, 90 more. They needed 50 artists but had less than 20. As the film went on, the makeup got more intense. More wires, more goo. The Borg looked like they were leaking oil. It made them terrifying. For the Queen scene, they built a rig to lower Kryge's body and used a blue suit and digital tricks to make it look like she was floating. It was a bold move, and it worked. First Contact was a hit. Critics and fans loved it. Patrick Stewart even called it the best-looking Star Trek film. So Frakes moved on to direct Star Trek Insurrection, but lightning didn't strike twice. The sequel wasn't as strong. Reviews were mixed. The story felt flat. Stewart later said that even Nemesis, which Frakes didn't direct, improved on some parts. The disappointment, and it started to hurt Frakes' momentum. Then came Thunderbirds in 2004. A big movie with big hopes. It had a known brand, a strong cast, Bill Paxton, Ben Kingsley, and a decent budget. But the film flopped badly. Critics tore it apart. Audiences stayed away. Frakes later said that after Thunderbirds, no one returned his calls. He called it movie jail. He had to sell things. He left London and moved to Maine. His wife opened a store to help keep things going. It was a hard reset. He hasn't directed a feature film since. That was over 20 years ago. But he didn't give up. He went back to TV, back to Star Trek, back to what he knew. He directed episodes of newer Star Trek shows, plus others like The Librarians. In his words, TV became a place where you can take a job, and nobody notices who directed it. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. Jonathan Frakes didn't set out to fall in love on a movie set. Back in 1985, he was just trying to do his job on the Civil War miniseries North and South. He was 32 and barely on the radar. But then came Jeannie Francis. She was already a star, working alongside Patrick Swayze and Leslie Ann Down. At first, it was all professional, but while filming in Charleston and Natchez, something changed. During a Memorial Day break, they took a trip to New Orleans together. That's when everything clicked. Funny enough, they had actually met before, on the set of a short-lived show called Bare Essence. Frakes had thought she was too young. He was almost 30. She was just 20. But the timing was wrong back then. North and South gave them a second chance, and this time, it worked. Somehow she took a chance on me, Frakes still says. Why she would go out with me is a mystery. They got married on May 28, 1988. That was over 38 years ago. In Hollywood years, that's an eternity. Jeannie never appeared in Star Trek, but she didn't need to. She had already become a pop culture icon. Since 1977, she's played Laura Collins on General Hospital and appeared in more than 890 episodes. When they first met, she was the bigger star. But Frakes soon found his own spotlight when he became Commander Riker on Star Trek: The Next Generation. They supported each other through all of it. Frakes often runs lines with her, helping her memorize those brutal soap opera shooting days with 30 pages of dialogue. They raised 2 kids. One of them, their daughter Eliza, is now following in their footsteps, writing and acting. But behind all the success, Frakes carries a heavy loss. His brother Daniel died of pancreatic cancer in 1997. He was just 41. It happened 1 week before Frakes' daughter was born. Daniel wasn't just a sibling, he was his best friend. They had moved to New York together in a beat-up 1967 Chevy Sport van. They shared tiny apartments and big dreams. When Daniel was diagnosed, doctors tried a major surgery called the Whipple procedure. But the cancer had spread too far. They closed him back up. The doctors said there was no hope. Maybe 6 months left. At the time, the survival rate for pancreatic cancer was just 4%. Frakes was shattered, but he didn't let the grief sit still. For the past 25 years, he's been working with PanCan, the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, to raise awareness and fight for better outcomes. His mission turned personal into public. In 2022, he joined with fellow Star Trek stars to form Trek Against Pancreatic Cancer. Together with Armin Shimerman, Kitty Swink, an 18-year survivor, and John Billingsley, they started walking for a cause. Every April 29th, they join the PanCan Purple Stride fundraiser, walking in 60 cities across the country. Frakes usually starts as from the Santa Monica Pier. Their team has raised tens of thousands for research and support. Thanks to efforts like this, things are slowly getting better. The survival rate has crept up from 4% to around 11 to 12%. Still terrible, but better. PanCan has invested $174 million into research over the years.